So now the story is there is a deployment inside of Kubernetes running, and this deployment is running in that Kubernetes cluster quite okay, but then there's a third party, and this third party service is outside of the Kubernetes cluster, which means it's out of your control. Normally, this is a service by a different department, a different engineering team, maybe it's a third party security tool, whatever. Now, you need to implement your service, which is running in Kubernetes, in a way that you are always aware of any bad moment where the third party is not responding fast enough because there is some latency. Why is this a high potential? Because you are now inside of Kubernetes in his own network bubble, then you need to get out of this cluster. So there are many hops on the network until you have reached your final destination, the third party service. So a lot of stuff can go wrong, and this will by nature lead to high latency. Not very high latency, but there is latency by nature in the hierarchy of calls. What you can do is now, first of all, be aware of such a situation, and then really identify how much latency is still handleable for you. So is it okay if there is 1 second of latency? Is it okay if there are 10 seconds? Shouldn't be okay, but it really depends on your use case. And with a chaos experiment and with our experiment, you can really identify how good your service has been configured and designed until he is no longer able to deliver. Because let's say we identified less than 5 seconds, everything is fine, our deployment, our service is running. But if we are getting in the range of 6, 7, 8 or even more seconds, there are cascading errors inside of the system, and our system is no longer handling those situations.
So at the experiment level, how would a team add that artificial latency for a third-party service?
So I would start from my deployment. So with Steadybit, there is a way where you can select your deployment as a target, and then you can tell Steadybit, hey, for that deployment and all the elements that are part of that deployment, like the containers, pods, whatever, please inject latency to one specific endpoint. So this again is a very small and safe blast radius for you, because now you're not like injecting latency in that third party. No, you are starting from your calling service, from your deployment, where you can tell Steadybit for the next 2 minutes, there will be latency spikes with up to 15 seconds, whatever you decide. And then you're really checking your deployment, and you're not like interacting with the third party where you need to inject something. That is how you should start, and that is like the easiest and safest way to get started. Identify deployments that are calling a third party. That's the point where you should start, get that list, and start to really identify what is the impact of latency in the range of 3 to 5 seconds for each of those deployments. If they are not calling a third party, you don't need to check.